right, we're back here with Scott Fisher from Scott Fisher Salons on Chagrin Boulevard. He's a hair designer. Yes.
Let's start off with the basics. What exactly is the difference between a hair designer and a hairdresser?
Is there a difference?
Well, I guess you could call them the same thing, but I've always defined hairdressing as being what you do after you put down the comb and scissors. And a hair designer deals more with the sculpture of hair, with a comb and scissors simulating a chisel and hammer, where you're really sculpturing the outer line and the inner texture as well.
So getting the shape and the mood of the hairstyle?
Exactly.
And that's what you do?
What I do is both make sure the outside shape is a reflection of the inside feeling.
Okay,
meaning
so
how the person feels.
All right, okay, I understand that.
Okay.
So how did you get interested in being a hair designer?
Well, back in the 60s, I'm sure everyone has heard of Vidal Sassoon. He has a major product line out. He made radical changes in hair. He brought out models with the most geometrical things that people have seen since the Egyptians. And he's the one that really introduced sculpture to hair design. And I got associated with Vidal in the early 70s, 1971.
Did you work for him?
I worked for him. I started with him in London and spent about 13 months in London.
That's great.
It was really exciting. It was a great period to be there. It was great. Then I was transferred to New York and worked on Madison Avenue for about 2.5 years and did a lot of work. There was a lot of great things going on in New York at that time. And then in 1974, I was promoted to artistic director for his salon. And
in New York?
Yes, in New York. And then I was transferred down to a salon in Dallas that he was opening up at the time to be in charge of the training of the new staff, as well as being in charge of show production and magazine work and what have you.
Did you know you'd be traveling a lot when you decided to be a hair?
I didn't know, but what I did know is that I did know that I wanted to be with a company that was making a real big statement in the field of hair design. And at that time, Sassoon was a forerunner. I mean, he was doing to hair design what Perry Ellis is doing to clothes today. And it was just a very exciting time to be with them.
Why did you want to be here? What made you say? Did you see why?
Well, I'd have to say that, again, it was the influence of what Sassoon stood for. At the time, I was living in Cleveland, and I didn't really see anything around Cleveland that was that exciting in hair. I think the shag was pretty much in play, but that's about all we saw at the time. This is back in 1969, 1970, pretty rock and roll hair. But I was up in Toronto one weekend, and there was a Vidal Sassoon in Toronto. And you were seeing very geometrical bangs, very geometrical bobs. This is when Vidal Sassoon cut Barbra Streisand's hair for, what was that film? Oh gosh, I can't think of it.
What was that, Alan?
I can't think of it at the moment, but it was what was called a graduated bob. It was very angular. It started out very short in the back and long in the front, and the line was just perfect. I mean, it looked like he used a T-square on it. And it was just exciting to see the discipline that went into a haircut like that, and it just set a whole new pace for the way a stylist would approach the business.
Was there a great influx in designers after, I mean, because changing, when I think the 60s and the 70s, I think, okay, everybody had long hair, they kept it straight and rather boring, and then all of a sudden he comes out with something outrageous and very attractive. Were there a lot of people that decided to become hairstylists then?
I don't know how many became hairstylists. I do know that it sort of started out in the Sassoon family in terms of the strength of the business, and then as they started spreading out on their own, and then they started removing by then teaching on their techniques to others. What Sassoon did technically in the design field was he did to hair design what music did for someone learning classical music first as a foundation, as a base, to then go on to do jazz or just about anything, that they wanted to do. So it was a real base in terms of art and hair.
So you own your own salon now, and do you cut hair at?
Yes, I still cut hair there, and I have 13 people cutting with me, and what we're really trying to do now is focus in on taking those artistic concepts and bringing out the best of an individual. So you sit down in our chair before you're shampooed, and what we try and do is get to know you and get to know what your life space is and find out what is it about you that you want to reflect outwardly that's a reflection of the way you feel in here.
Okay, so you make sure that the cut fits the person?
Not only in the bone structure, I mean, that's a given, that you want a cut to really bring out the finest features of the face and the frame, but you also want to make sure that that cut is a reflection of the image that an individual wants to project to the public.
I see. That's great.
Yeah, so it's a very sensitive business now.
Okay, one second. Were you born in Cleveland?
I was born in Cleveland, yes.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. Do you want?
No.
Okay. What would you say is your favorite part of your work?
I would have to say that the finished product of an individual that sits in your chair after you've completed the design and she's finished and you've just really uplifted her self-image and you've made her look 30 or 40% better than she did when she walked in the door.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very satisfying.
Okay, what do you want to do with the rest of your career?
I want to go
stylist?
into teaching more. I will eventually open up some education centers around, and I want to share my knowledge and my sensitivities with other people.
Do you want to go out of the country with it, or maybe stay
I will
in the
start
US?
out. I will start out with my first education center in Cleveland, and may branch out across the state, and we'll just see how well it's received, and possibly branch out further than that. But I really feel that Cleveland is really going places in design. I think in the past 5 or 6 years, I think young people have really made some nice statements in fashion, and I want to be a part of it here.
What exactly is an education center? What would you do
It's
there?
a facility where it takes somebody like yourself that wants to make a career start or a career change and go into the field of hair design, and or any form of cosmetology for that matter, and take up the field and learn the basics. And as you know or may not know, it's a state-regulated profession, so you have to go down to Columbus after you've completed your 1,500 hours. But what I want to do is I want to create the awareness and sensitivity from the ground level, rather than just teaching basics that just state board is requiring of you, but taking it a step further and giving people a good idea of what's currently going on in hair design, what's currently going on in fashion, and what's currently going on in interaction between people, and how it's best to do that.
Where do you get your ideas for cuts? I mean, do you think them all up in your mind? Do you get them from other stylists? Do you get them from what you see on the street?
I really feed off of anything that has a high level of excellence to it. Anybody that achieves a good eye for detail and a high level of excellence, I am more in tune to that. I don't care whether we're at a sushi bar watching somebody prepare, raw fish and sushi in an artistic design, or whether we're in a clothing store and you see an outfit put together very nice, or whether you're in an art gallery. I think you can, if you so-called keep your antennas fully extended, the whole world can be your stimulus.
That's great.
Speaking of current, what are like the current fashions in hair this year?
The new technique in cutting hair is leafing. And leafing is a certain impression that you do with the comb and scissors, that the end product, hair is coming very forward for the summer. Both short and long styles are all directed forward, whether it's just in the front or in the sides.
Yeah, I saw that in the Vogue.
Right, and the finished product simulates a leaf. Very jagged ends in the way that you would see a leaf finished off, and that's what you do. So nature gives a big stimulus sometimes to our designs as well. So we have a lot of fun with it. We really
Great.
do.
Do you work with a specific age group or just anyone?
No, I like to keep the age group as varied as possible, because I think it's all a frame of mind, and it's important to bring out the images constantly changing as you get older, and it's just important to stay in touch with those feelings. So we like to start out from the first haircut that's videotaped right up to whenever.
How do you get an appointment at your salon?
You just call the salon and ask for me for a consultation, or any one of my staff members will be glad to accommodate you.
All right.
Well, it's been great talking to
Good.
you.
It's nice to be here. Thanks for
Hopefully
having
you'll
me.
get some more business from this.
Good. Come and see
And
us.
now to Kirk with a story on nose jobs.
Thanks, Joe.